Good afternoon, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave, no Jack today, as he is gearing up and getting ready to go away for a week. And plus, I do apologise for the early stream today as well. It's supposed to be a bit later on, but I did forget that we've got some big Euro games tonight, so we will be doing our watch-alongs over on TIFO, which means I had to bring this forward. But we have drafted in the one and only Sam. You'd recognise him in the comments as Sam DaCosta. Worthy replacement, I would argue, speaks very well. Sam, how are you, my man?
Yeah, not bad, Dave. Thank you very much. And thanks for moving it earlier because actually I do want to watch those games.
No, I think we all do, and I have to do watch-alongs for them on TIFO anyway, and I completely forgot about them, so I did have to move them. I did have to move this forward, so I do apologise that it is early for anyone that is going to watch this later on playback, but it does seem like the transfer market is heating up, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So we are going to go through the rumours. Please give us your thoughts in the comment section as we go along. Any questions that you may want us to answer, feel free to smash that like, to subscribe, or support in various ways through super chats or memberships if that's what you would like to do. But first and foremost, happy Friday to you all, and I hope you're all doing the things that you enjoy doing the most, whatever that is. But look, we'll welcome some people in, and then we're going to crack on. Big up Georgie Hill, big up lads. Hope you're keeping well. We'd love to see both, but if I had to choose, I'd take Doué. Love Neto, but he's too injury prone for the price Wolves are asking for. I'd take him for 25 to 30 million. Well, we'll get on to that, George. I presume Spurs will have a lot of clauses in that if they were to go for him. Neil Hartley says Neto has had many muscle injuries, and if he came to us with our intense way of playing, he would break down within a month. That is a fair point, actually, Neil. Big up Just a Harmless Potato. Hello all. Big up Jack and Dave. Good to see you. We've got The Fresher says, big up Dave and Jack. Didn't realise Mikey Moore could sign professional forms in just 36 days, and Dortmund have apparently put in a massive offer. Well, we will get to that. Spurs done great work to initially tie him down to his schoolboy forms, but he does have a professional contract on the table from Tottenham that he agreed to when he signed his schoolboy forms. Now, whether he's going to, accept that agreement, because there is clubs coming in with big offers, so we will get on to that in just a little while, but it looks like we are under pressure again to try and tie Mikey Moore down to his first professional contract. Danny Darko, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. THFC for life. If we're a big club, we would buy both. Well, we'll get on to that. I'll start that. I'll keep that for Sam when we get on to it. DJ AK, good to see you, my man. Where have you been? Probably out spinning the decks in Ibiza or something, but says, big up, lads. Hope you're all well. Come on, you Spurs. Has anyone seen the sun be missing like England in the Euros? I mean, I think we've got the summer that we're already going to get, to be brutally honest. DJ AK, it's been a shocking summer. We have Liam, big up Dave and Sam. Good to see you, Liam. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Kieran Spiteri. Kieran, it's been a long time, my man. How are you keeping? Good to see you're still alive. So say, Dave, long time no see. Can't wait to see the new signings in the club. Give Ange what he wants so we get better and better next season. Hopefully we get Doué and Neto. Big up, Dave. Come on, you Spurs. A lot of people wanting both. Shem Tam says, hey, Dave and Sam. Hope you're both well. Hopefully you're keeping well, Shem. We also have Danny Darko. Hope we're both well. We're keeping well, my man. And we have Jay Keaveney on the boys. Good to see you, Mr. Keaveney. Hopefully you're keeping well. Good old Irish name. I think you told me before, but let me know where in Ireland you're from. And we have Tony Austin. Can't let him take our kids. Well, look, if you don't give them opportunities, that's what it's left open to do. So we'll wait and see what happens on that. But look, Sam, let's get into it, my man. I know you did skip out of work to do this, so everybody, show Sam your appreciation for that. Oh, take that down. Don't that was supposed to be very last one, guys. Sorry, we'll come to that. But look, we'll start with Emerson Royal, and it does seem like the deal is stalling according to Calcio Mercato. Tottenham Hotspur are refusing to move from the 20 million valuation for defender Emerson Royal. Contact has resumed between Spurs and AC Milan. However, there is still some distance between the two clubs. And Sam, this is also something that Fabrizio Romano sort of reported on 3 days ago, and it's in line with that. And he said Emerson was given the green light in May by Spurs to Milan, but Milan is still some way off Tottenham's 25 million valuation. Now, Tottenham did pay Barcelona 25 million for Emerson back in 2021, Sam, and are asking for the same fee to allow him to leave for Milan. Now, this deal is being held up by Spurs because Emerson has agreed personal terms with Milan and everything else. Are Spurs right to hold out for the valuation that they're asking for Emerson, or are Spurs creating the same problems that they've also created by over-asking or overvaluing the players that they're trying to get off the books?
I'm kind of torn between it because, I mean, the fan in me wants the best for the club. So, you know, if we can get him out, and they're offering, I'm not sure exactly, I feel like I saw something they were offering like 17 million is where they're kind of like aiming to get to, which is not a huge deal off of 20 million or 25 million. So I kind of can understand why fans would want to just say, you know, they like Emerson, they like his attitude, but ability-wise, he's never really cut it for us, or at least he's not in the kind of vein that we want to go for with Ange. But then at the same time, I mean, I'm just looking at it now. He's 25 years old. His birthday's in January, so he'll be 26 next season. He's not in his prime yet. 20 to 25 million. I don't think that's that much of an ask, especially if they're only a few million off. We get kind of shafted by Premier League clubs in general get shafted by all these clubs in Europe who want to charge, you know, millions of pounds or euros for players that we think are worth less. And then they don't want to budge from that. So why should we have to budge from that on a player like this? I don't think Emerson is really the biggest problem at Spurs. And if Emerson goes, then we do need to sign a right back. I know we brought in Archie Gray, who can play there, but by all accounts, from what I've seen, that's not actually his position. And although he can fill in there adequately, he's a midfielder. So we don't want to just keep shoehorning players into positions where they fit. We actually want to create a pathway for them to grow into their strongest potential. So with Emerson, I'm not really, I know that you also like Emerson, so I'm not really that bothered if they don't want to pay the money. There's clearly interest in him. Whether people think he's good or not, he's clearly solid enough to play in the Premier League and do kind of what's required. Whether you think that's the bare minimum, that's up to you. So I would be holding out for the money. I think I wouldn't want to just get rid of him for the sake of it. You know, he's good versatility and has filled in wherever we've asked him to. He's got a great attitude. He's good for the squad. So yeah, I'd keep him if we had to.
Look, I know many people have their feelings on Emerson. Some like him, some like his attitude, you know, and the way he spent his own money to sort of try and further his own career. And I know a lot of people don't think he's good enough, but it does look like this is coming to an end. This is a deal that I do personally think will get done. I do think both clubs will meet the valuation. I know Damesh on Last Word on Spurs came out and said last night that, you know, Tottenham would be happy to keep Emerson if Milan don't meet his asking price. And I think that's like what you're saying. Tottenham strong-arming, you know, a team across Europe, aka AC Milan, you know, to meet their valuation. If they're going to charge big bucks for the players that they want to sell, they're also going to have to start paying some of this money back for the players they want to buy. I do think this is one that's going to drag on, though. I don't think this is going to be resolved by the end of the weekend. If I'm AC Milan, and if you know how these Italian clubs operate, they're just going to drag this out until it comes to a point where Spurs maybe are looking at the squad list and go, okay, we're going to have to take the money that's on offer here. So this is one that I do think will happen, but I still think you're going to see this, you know, over the next week or two or even longer, drag on a little bit. But what, Sam, do Spurs then need to go and sign someone else if they do let go of Emerson across that back line? Because to be fair to Emerson, he filled in at right back and centre back adequately. It's when he went to left back towards the end of the season where his sort of season really derailed and his campaign really finished and everyone really got on his back when he was asked to play at left back and clearly shown he can't do it. But the point being, we suffered injuries and suspensions last year and he filled in quite a lot across the campaign. So if we do let him go, I know we signed Archie Gray. Personally, I think we will be looking at shoehorning him into right back next season at least. The links to Vonderson are completely gone. You know, they're completely washed out of the water since the Gray one heated up. So I think that's our pursuit of a right back over. But do you think we still need to sign someone else that can fill in somewhere across that back line, you know, if we do let someone like Emerson go? Because if not, you're only talking about Phillips or Alfie Dorrington if they're going to be kept around as the ones that'll come in. And many Spurs fans have their doubts about giving them an opportunity.
Look, in an ideal world, we do the Man City thing and have multiple players that play in all these positions. But we live in the real world with the mere mortals. And I don't think that it is the biggest priority area for us. I think, your boy Ben Davies, we don't really want him in the team. I don't mind having him in the squad. I think he's another good character.
Yeah.
But ideally, if there is an injury to Doue and you don't fancy Radu at left centre back, I know he can fill in there if he needs to, but he's right-footed and looked a little bit shaky on the left side, if I'm being honest. He had a few good games, but he also had a couple moments where I thought he's not as good on the left as I thought he could be. We're definitely going to need to sign some sort of backup that can play there, or let's not say backup, but a rotation option. I know that Mickey can also play there, so I think I'm not super. If we don't end up signing a left back, I'm also not super defeatist over it. But we do need to sign one defensive option that has the ability to play on one of the flanks, and then, as you say, if Archie Gray can play there, realistically, he's not going to get many minutes this season in the midfield. We've got a lot of players that need to be moved on, but probably won't get moved on. So I do think we need to sign one player. Is it going to be Calafiori? I don't really think so, if I'm honest. I've only really seen him play in the Euros, so I won't go and say, I've watched him week in, week out. Looks a solid player. Looks like he can cover left back if we need him to. But I know that also Radu has played right back for Romania. But is he good enough on the ball where he can go into midfield? We'll see,
No, look, I completely agree. For me, I think if you do sell Emerson, I think we do need to bring in one more. But I think the transfer rumors will tell us what Spurs' plans are. I don't know why, but I have a sneaky suspicion that Alfie Dorrington, for instance, if we don't sign someone in the market like a Calafiori, could be the backup to Van de Ven and Destiny Udogie. He has played, at left-sided centre-back for the under-21s and has looked very comfortable on the ball playing on that side. So I would maybe hazard a guess. And plus, I think Postecoglou said earlier on last season when he was asked about Donley, he sort of name-checked Dorrington and said his progression is coming along really well. Now, I know Dorrington had 2 massive injuries towards the end of the campaign, and a lot hinders on how he looks pre-season, when he meets up with the squad and stuff like that. Can he regain his fitness and get back to the level he was at? But if we don't sign someone, I would hazard a guess that maybe that could be the plan of maybe shoehorning him, because I do think that someone like Dorrington is good enough to play fullback, in the Premier League. Or maybe his height might let him down, or his physicality might let him down at centre back. But as in terms, could he play a fullback? I definitely think so. So I'd keep an eye on that one. But it'd be interesting because I know Calafiori, he's been linked to Juventus, to follow his old manager. He's been linked to Arsenal of recent. I really like the guy. He reminds me a lot of Nesta, but he plays on the left side, and be interesting to see what we can do there. But that is everything on Emerson. We'll go through the comments, see what people are saying. Good afternoon, Hollywood Phil. Long time, my man. How you keeping? Please let me know in the comments. Good to see you in the building. Big up Ramsey as well. Great to see you. Shawnee Maddox says, I don't want to buy high and sell low. Absolutely spot on. Ramsey says, nah, they're taking the piss. Royal is no world beater, but he's a Premier League right back. Kieran Spiteri says, if Royal goes, then we need a right back. Simple as. Kieran, I think Archie Gray is going to be that plan at right back. Let me know your thoughts on that. He did have a good campaign there for Leeds. He is very good defensively. One-on-one is where he sort of accelerates. Donovan, great to see you as always, my man. Good to see you. Let me know how you're keeping over in Canada. Wayne Bonner, as always, good to see you. What are Milan offering for Royal? Some reports are saying they think they can get him for 10 million. And some other reports are saying they're looking to maybe stretch to 17, 18 million. So I'd hazard a guess they're somewhere in between there right now, to be brutally honest with you, Wayno. The Fresher says, think AC Milan offered only 10 million. If that is true, we should tell them to up their bid or do one. I think that's basically what Tottenham are doing, to be brutally honest with you. Mako80 says the Italian clubs can't afford Prem players. Look, a lot of clubs around Europe are completely broke. There's no hiding that. A lot of them do have financial troubles, especially off the back of the pandemic. And a lot of their leagues don't bring in the same revenue that the Premier League brings in. So there's all that to take into account. But they do take enough. Like, for instance, how much money have Spurs pumped into the Italian league over the last, couple of seasons? So you're telling me at least one of them clubs can't afford to, pay for Emerson Royal? Of course they can. regardless whether they're broke or not. They can structure a deal where they can get the deal done. And plus, it doesn't all have to be up front. They can do this over installments, which most transfers are paid over a number of years. Shawnee Maddox says, I would rather spend it on a striker, a cam, a winger before another defender. Well, look, we are going to segue into that in a minute, my man. The Fresher says, that's BS. Juventus have enough to bid for Calafiori from Bologna, yet won't pay competitive prices for Premier League clubs. Leslie Crawford says, Dorrington is miles off. He looks good against other kids. Fair enough. That's your opinion, my man. We also have Chris. Good to see you. How are you keeping up in cold Newcastle? Hollywood Phil says, I'm all good. New job, so being very busy, still keeping up with our Tottenham. That's good to see. You, no matter whether you're working, you always keep up to date with Tottenham, my man. That's like a religion at this point. And then we have this from Kay. Lads, I'm back. Come on, new Spurs. Good to see you, Kay. Hopefully you're keeping well. I presume you're back from college. I think you're in college, if I'm correct. Let me know how your summer's going. Really appreciate the support, brother. And Leslie Crawford says, let them make mistakes on loan. We can't afford to give players them games in the first team until they get experience playing regularly against grown men. Look, I hear that to a degree, but if you're going to bring in like Archie Gray, he's not Premier League proven. Okay, he's had a year in the Championship, but he's not Premier League proven, so it's still a risk. So why not take the risk with some of our players rather than keep shelling out 40, 50 million, and you can use that to bring in someone like Eze and people like that. And then we also have Anurag Kushik says, cheers from India, brothers. Appreciate that. Good to see you. I do love the Indian cuisine as well. Big up, my man. If you tune into this channel regularly enough, you know I'm a big fan of food. And International Service says, big up, Irish. Good to see you, my man. Really appreciate you tuning in. Moving on then, we are going to go into some of the attacking options that have been linked with Spurs over this past week. And it does start with Désiré Doué. And this comes via Fabrizio Romano, who sort of on his YouTube channel via that watch player, says Tottenham have a genuine interest in Désiré Doué and is on their list of targets. Spurs have already expressed their interest to the agents of the player, so Doué is one to watch for Tottenham. Sam, I mean, some people may not know about this player. He's a 19-year-old kid, plays for Rennes in France. You can play through the middle as a cam, can play right or left wing. Paul O'Keefe also said earlier in the week, to give credit to him, that Doué is also on the shortlist. Again, he's another player that has had a breakout campaign, a bit like Archie Gray for Leeds this season. Last season. Now it's in past context. He's had the breakout campaign. There's a lot of clubs being linked with him. He's tipped for a big move. Tottenham also have a good relationship with Rennes as well, loaning them Roden and Spence over the last few years. Is this a player you want to see at Tottenham? Because I see a lot of people saying, yeah, we need to go and get this kid.
I mean, I feel like most people, I haven't seen much of him play, if I'm honest, if at all. I've seen the comps that have been doing the rounds on Twitter. And from those comps, he looks like the kind of profile that we don't have at Spurs, which is a pacey winger who doesn't just use his pace to get around someone, but has a bit of trickery, a bit of flair. I was also looking at the kind of positions that he played for the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, he's made 57 appearances for Rennes. And in those games, he played predominantly as a left wing, played a few games in midfield, attacking and central. He can also play right. So for a team like us that doesn't really know what our best front three is, he definitely could find some time in if other players aren't performing, and 57, which I think he's just turned 19. Those are some, strong appearance numbers. I know it's obviously a weaker league in comparison to the Premier League. If we could get him play though.
Say that last bit again there. Sorry, Sam, you cut off.
So, having not seen him play, though, I would be open to it.
For me, I'm trying to work out, is this a guy that, first of all, does he impact the first 11? You've already got a lot of raw players in there, and the likes of Brennan Johnson. Kulusevski sort of is still a tad bit raw. You look at Werner over the other side, not the most prolific in terms of goals or assists. I sort of worry, are we just adding to the problem by bringing this guy in? Don't get me wrong, I think he's super talented. When you look at him, I've played a lot of Football Manager. He's a guy that's come up. I've gone and done a bit of research into him. He's direct, he's pacey, he scores goals and assists goals, but again, in the French league, they're talking about 30, 35 million for this kid. And I get it. It is something that Tottenham have done very well over the last few years, signing players in for the academy, young players in for the first team to create that competition and lowering the average age of the squad. But I sort of worry, are we going too far with it? We've already got a lot of sort of raw talent in and around the squad. Next year, you're going to have Luca Bergvall. You're going to have, hopefully, Mikey Moore if he doesn't decide to move on. You're going to have probably one of Phillips or Dorrington in there. You have Archie Gray in there. I worry, that we're going to carry a lot of sort of Papa Matsara is still a young kid. Destiny Adoji still has a lot to learn. Van de Ven. I wonder, are you going to, carry too much youngsters towards next season? For me, I wonder, is he an Eze alternative when you look at the amount of positions he can play through the middle, out right, out left? And the way I'm looking at it now, this is one I wouldn't knee-jerk and go and purchase this guy this summer personally. I know Fabrizio Romano says this is one to watch, which probably means he probably will end up at Tottenham Hotspur over the course of this summer, I would hazard a guess. But for me, I would only go after this guy if you can't get Eze. Go and test Palace's waters for someone like Eze first. Try and bring him in the door. And if you can't, then maybe use this as your backup option or your alternative. But I wouldn't be going straight away for this kid, because for me, does he impact the first 11? I wouldn't say so. As soon as he comes in, I wouldn't say he does. He's got Son to displace. He's got Maddison out on the right. There's Kulusevski and Johnson. So I don't think he impacts the team straight away either. So I'm a bit concerned about this one. For me, I want us to go and test the waters for Eze first. I mean, do you see him as an Eze replacement, Sam?
Well, yeah, I think you're right in terms of the number of positions that he can play. Kind of, I wrote in my notes, like, it's similar. He has a similar sort of profile from the comps, that he's a player who, and also a bit like Hazard, whether I'm, crazy to throw that out there, that wants to dribble with the ball through players, but even though he might not be the most physically built, is able to ride the challenge. I think that's such a big trait to have. Like in the build-up games to the Euros, Eze was the only player that I thought looked half decent for England. And there was, it was against now, but one, I think maybe it was Bosnia. One of the games, he went on this dribble, started on the left, took the ball inside, beat one man, dropped the shoulder, beat another, did like a sort of pirouette, held off another player with just his strength, managed to get the ball through. And it's like, Maddison had a few moments like that in the first half of the season. But other than that, I don't think I could name you one player that has done that in a congested area. I know Kulusevski has a similar sort of profile in that regard, but he mainly does that sort of stuff on the wing against one player, and then doesn't seem to have the end product, at least at this point in time, to pick out a good ball, or he's not selfish enough to take the shot or confident enough to take the shot. Whereas I know it's obviously only a compilation, but from the cost that I was seeing, taking the ball in congested areas, Doue, and he's also dribbling with his head up, which is a really strong trait to have as well. To look for a partner. So I am interested in him, but I also would be looking for Eze. If they, if Palace won 50, maybe 60 million for Eze, it's only 20. I say only 20 million more than what's sort of being rumored for Doue. And at that point, I know Eze is 25, so he's quite a bit older than Doue, but you're buying someone who has played in England their whole life. He's homegrown. He's got 2 years of Premier League experience now, in a team that finished the season very strongly, and he was, pretty integral to that. I think that Eze would be the kind of player that I'd want, especially because I don't even think that we would necessarily play him as left wing. I think that he would be an option in the 8 as one of the primary roles for him in the team. Whether Maddison is not performing, or they decide that against a low block they could afford to play both of them with a slightly more defensive-minded player. I mean, Maddison and Eze linking up in that midfield could be pretty tasty. I wanted to talk. Sorry, I just wanted to say, you said about signing young players like this. Are we signing too many? Andrew was quoted saying about how he wants to go for the league next season. But whether you think that's a pipe dream or right. So just keep signing these.
Oh,
to some.
Sam, do you want to log out and log back in? I think you're lagging slightly.
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. So we'll let Sam log out and log back in. I'll take over from there. We'll let him come back in and make his point. Look, for me, with Doué, I get that we've probably contacted his agents and it probably means something. But for me, does that put an end to us going in for someone like Eberechi Eze? I think if we've learned anything last season, we sold Harry Kane and we were expecting average players to come in here and make up the difference, like Werner, like Johnson, and they didn't. And if you bring in someone like Doué, you're putting yourself into the same situation. For me, we need somebody proven, and that's why we should be going all out for someone like Eberechi Eze. Lay down the money that Palace want, whatever payment conditions they need, lay it out and bring him in here. We took for granted what Harry Kane brought here in terms of creativity and goals, and I'll be brutally honest, I don't want to see Tottenham look void of ideas up front, again next season, because that's what's going to happen if we keep signing players that aren't Premier League proven, that have you've done it in the Premier League. If we want to take that next step from where we are to next season, not only do we need some of the players at the club, like Werner and Johnson, to progress and be a lot better than what they were last season, but we also need to add 1 or 2 quality players to that as well that are already proven rather than taking a risk. So for me, that's why I say go all out for Eze. If you can't get him, then you go for this guy. But I also question if it is bringing him in as a cam. You've got Bergvall who could probably play there. Archie Gray fighting for positions. Donley coming through, potentially fighting for that position as well, alongside James Maddison. So you're going to be overly stocked if it's out wide. On the left, you've got Son and Werner. On the right, you've got Johnson and Kulu. Now, me personally, I think you might see Kulu as a second option as a striker next season, and maybe we bring this guy in on the right-hand side. But again, I'm just not sure he solves, a problem within the first 11 or a problem within the squad. I think the only thing he does is he comes in and offers competition. But like Sam already pointed out, add another 20, 30 million to what you're going to pay for this guy and bring in Eze, because you'll get a better reward come the end of the season for doing that bit of business. But sorry, Sam, what were you saying, my man, before the internet shut itself?
Is this better? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a lot better.
Cool. No, I was just saying that Andrew was saying that he wants to challenge for the league, and whether you think that's a pipe dream or not doesn't really matter. That's what the man at the head of it all is saying are his goals. But then when you actually look at the squad, quality aside, we're looking at experience, right? And when you actually think about it, Son, Maddison has Premier League experience. Other than that, everyone's pretty young. I mean, obviously, Romero has now had a few years of experience in the Premier League. He's won international trophies. But the argument against that is the first couple of seasons, he was pretty reckless, missed a lot through injury and suspension. He's not really proved anything in Europe yet. Not that I don't think he's a great player. He's probably our second best player at the moment, maybe third best if you want to say any of the other players. But we don't have any proven talent, which maybe even Eze isn't, right? But we don't have someone that can come in and really take the game by the scruff of the neck if it's not going our way, and grab players and sort of whip them into shape and get them to do what's required. Just a bit more leadership, Our older players are other than Son, our older players are only like, sort of 26, 27. So it's not even like our players have, bags of experience. I'm not saying I want to do the Conte and sign 35-year-old Ivan Perisic, right? That's not to, play down Perisic. I think we were all quite excited when we brought him in. But we do need to sign some players who have been there. I don't know if we'll bring it up, but I do think that that's a kind of player like Ivan Toney. Someone who's been around, has had to work to get where he is. He's been released from a few academies, and it took him a while to get to the Premier League, but he's ended up getting here, and he's been playing for an exciting at times side in Brentford, but generally quite underperforming. Especially last season. I know there's this whole betting scandal, whether he is obsessed with it and he can break the habit or not. And I know it is a risk, but if you can get him for a decent price, then I do think Toney is the kind of player that I would want to bring in personally.
Look, I agree with you. I think Toney solves a lot of problems up front. I think one thing we took for granted was with Harry Kane, how good he was with his hold-up play, back to goal, being able to bring others in. And we've seen with Sonny, he hasn't been able to do that job. That's one thing I was really annoyed with him last season. And the amount of times towards the end of the season, he was getting dispossessed and the ball was being turned on us and put in our own net. Now, look, that's not directly Sonny's fault because he's not a striker. It was only fans of Tottenham Hotspur that magically taught the guy is a striker. He's not a striker, he's a winger. He's done the best he can. And also, Richarlison just isn't reliable over the course of a whole season due to his injury. So, I do think Ivan Toney, I really like the guy. I've made no secret about it. I think his hold-up play is good. He brings others into play. He's got a good passing range. He's a nuisance in the air, takes free kicks and penalties and scores goals. I mean, what more do you want? And these are the sort of players we should be looking at. They're the players we should have looked to replace someone like Harry Kane with instead of 50 million on Brennan Johnson. And for me, I look at it again, who's going to have more of an impact or chance of having a better impact on Tottenham's first team next season? 19-year-old Doué is coming in from Liga, and name me the last player that we've bought from France that has directly come into this Tottenham team and impacted it without being out on loan. We can sit here and say Papa Matspar, but he spent a season or two out on loan, or someone like Eberechi Eze, who at Crystal Palace gives the bigger teams absolute nightmares. And for me, Eze solves a lot of a problem. Is he going to come in here and show leadership across that forward line? No, but he'll show leadership in other ways in terms of when he gets the ball. If we think that Eze is going to sit there and start passing it 5 yards like we've seen a lot of them other players do last season, forget about it. Eze is a guy that wants to take players on, make the game excitement, get fans out of their seat, give us what we're paying to watch. So for me, it's got to be him all day long. And if you want to really show ambition, go and get Ivan Toney, and there you are. You put Ange Postecoglou in a title race. But guys, let us know your thoughts on Doue. We'll take a couple more comments and we'll keep it moving. Good to see Nick Lazier in the house. Great to see you, Nico. We also have Ayanda Buthelezi, Spurs from Zede. I presume that's Zimbabwe, maybe. I could be wrong. Let me know.
I think that's South Africa.
South Africa? Is that not SA? I don't know. Anyway, maybe it's South Africa. I don't know. Let me know what country it's anyway. We've got Deshaun Spurs. We have no tech on the wings. Look, that's, again, you're right. I just want someone that can take on a player, beat a man. Son's the only winger that we have that can technically do that every single time. Big up Paul Connor. Big up Dave. Sam, didn't realize you was live, mate. Yeah, look, it took me a while to get these slides together, so I ended up putting up the show late, but I was always due to go live today. Do not worry about that. I was annoying Sam last night to come and join me. We've got THFC for life. I think Kulu's going to play up front. Definitely agree with that. Simon Cohen, good to see you, sir. How are you? The missus and the son. Are you and the son still going to Spurs games? Let me know. But hopefully you're keeping well, Simon. Great to see you as always. Foggy Phone, big up, guys. Long time, Dave. I like the player, especially if we get bought him and Neto. Judging we won't bring in a striker, which means Son will compete with Richie. And that's the thing, Foggy Phone. I think we do sign two sort of wingers. I think, that puts an end to Tottenham's striker search. But like I've already sort of alluded to, we've got Troy Parrott, Scarlett, Valise, all in and around a similar age. If we think that Tottenham ain't going to look at one of these guys on preseason and hope they hit the ground running and keep one of them around as a third option, we're sadly mistaken. I don't think we're going to sign a striker. But, I agree with Sam. We should be going after Toney if we are. Doue, not an Eze alternative, more of a left winger, basically a quick Jack Grealish, win a lot of free kicks. That said, Philogene is more of an Eze clone. The guy at Hull City that everyone's been linked to, Barcelona, everybody else, yeah. Look, Doue, See, the reason why I say Eze alternative is because for me, Eze can play right wing, left wing, or Cam through the middle. And that's why I sort of compare him to an Eze or an Eze alternative, because this guy can play all the similar positions as well. The fresher. We've got Ange Bosses, big up lads in chat. I'd love an Eze, but I really do think Tony should be our first sign. And then if we can't get Eze, I'd go for Callum Hudson Doué or Désiré Doué and maybe Edwards or Chiesa. Well, we'll keep hold of the Chiesa talk because we'll bring that up in just a momento. In terms of Callum Hudson Doué, I don't want him anywhere near the football club, being brutally honest. This is a guy that pushed to get out of Chelsea to go to Bayern Munich. The move failed. It's took him a while to get his career back on track. Personally, I think he's an ego about me. He thinks he's better than what he is without really showing it on the pitch. Look, I think he's a great talent, but you know, this kid's career has dropped off massively compared to once where it was. So definitely don't want him. But Eze and Tony would put us in a title challenge. Keep people. Let me know what you think on that. A Foggy Film says, Dave, would you prefer Eze alone or Doué and Neto? Look, being brutally honest, I prefer Eze alone. Look, Neto, we're going to move on to that next, actually. You know, injuries and stuff like that. I think he's a fantastic player, but, you know, how long are you going to get out of him over the course of a season? Doué, look, I like the kid. I like what I've seen of him. I like what he's about and stuff like that, and the compilation reels and how direct he is. But again, I just feel like someone like Eze gives you that je ne sais quoi, you know, ready-made, ready to come in here that we missed across that forward line last year. Let's not forget how stale that forward line, how void of ideas, how void of creativity it was. Bringing in a Doué doesn't solve that. Bringing in Eze does. So for me, Eze all day long, Foggy Foam. Really appreciate the question, my man. Big up, Moondog. Good to see you as always, brother. Great to see you in the chat. How you keeping? How have your holidays been? Jesus, loads of you after coming in the chat. Just bear with me. We've got Mr. Box Office TV. You missed the point on Ivan Tony. Why Tony is good for Tottenham. No, we do like Tony, but I don't do chats or go stream and say it. But Ange is leaving at the end of the season. He's convinced on this, Mr. Box Office. Box Office, give it over. Ange will be here at the end of next season. We have also got Paulio125, Ryan Garcia. Good to see you. By the way, guys, do get over and check out Mr. Box Office Context channel if you want to find out where he's sort of coming from with his videos. He give a lot more context to it. And he's a really nice guy. So get over there and check out Mr. Box Office TV and Dragging These Nuts. Member for 6 months. Really appreciate the length of the support, brother. Bring in Tony and watch BJ's assist numbers go up. And look, there is that certain argument. You know, I made that argument for some of these guys last season, especially Kulusevski out wide. You know, when Harry Kane was up front, Kulusevski's numbers were good. All of a sudden, Harry Kane comes out. Kulusevski looks like he can't play anymore. You know, but that's because a lot of the times, especially with Son up front, they had no one to be able to aim to in the box. When you're playing against low block teams, look how Germany have attacked it. Look how Spain have attacked it. Balls into the box, different angles, different ideas. And that's what we need. And when you've got someone like Son up front, such a small target man, dealing with sometimes two, a lot of times against smaller teams, three massive centre-halves at 6'4", he goes missing and it's impossible to find him. And that's why you do need someone like an Ivan Toney. And that gives the wingers the option then to be able to cross the ball from different angles rather than trying to walk it into the net. However, I still question Brendan Johnson's delivery a lot of the times. It pissed me off last season, even when he was in good positions, you know, and you're thinking, all you got to do is slide that across goals. He's hitting it behind them, over them, everything else. So I still question that, Dragging These Nuts, but we'll see how we get on. But really appreciate the support, brother. Big up T.O. Isaac. Good to see you as well. And then we've also got Farrell27. Big up, Dave. The talk of other clubs hovering around Mikey Moore's a cause for concern. When is he old enough to sign a contract? I believe it's 36 days. I think someone put it in the chat earlier on till he turned 17, Farrell. So that's going to heat up for sure, because it's not only Dortmund, the Manchester clubs, Real Madrid have been circling before he signed his schoolboy forms at Tottenham and everything else. So we have a big job on our hands there. And also Melton 69, Mikey needs to be in our first team squad this season. As a 16-year-old can play for Spain. He can play for us. Well, look, do you know what? It's actually refreshing take, Melton, because I've been arguing with Spurs fans all season long about trying to give some of these youngsters that we've got around the academy and that an opportunity. So it's a refreshing take and nice to hear, Melton. Good to see you. Now we will move on to Pedro Neto, and this comes, by the way, Fabrizio Romano, again via YouTube this week. Pedro Neto and Spurs, he is one of the names they have on the list. Pedro Neto for sure. The only doubt has always been on his injury. So that is the point to clarify on Pedro Neto, but he is one of the players they appreciate. So judging by them quotes then, Sam, because we know that Pedro Neto has been linked with Tottenham for quite some time. It was only 4 months ago, you know, in the January window and in the summer that Pedro Neto was linked as well. So I guess it just comes down to, do Tottenham take the gamble, you know, with someone like Pedro Neto? You know, do you take the risk given it that the quality that it provides, or do you overlook it because of the frequent and the awful injury list that he comes with?
I don't think he'll take the risk, if I'm honest. Also, his price is quite high from what I remember, and Wolves are going to want a decent price tag for him. And I know football's not judged solely on stats, but you know, Brennan Johnson, 73 games in the Premier League, 13 goals, 13 assists, so 26 GA. Pedro Neto, 111 appearances in the Prem, 11 goals, 20 assists, so 31 GA. So it's not really a big difference in numbers. But then you've got to factor in the fact that, I mean, on average, so in 111 games is about 10,200 minutes. And out of those minutes that Neto has potentially played in, he played 6,440. So that's quite a big disparity between the kind of minutes to games ratio that Neto would provide. You know, he seems to have sort of legs of glass. You know, looks like a very dangerous player. We've played against him before. You know, Wolves have always had, well, in recent years, have had these tricky Portuguese wingers. I remember I used to like Podence. But Neto, I like the look of him. I think if he could stay fit all season, then it would be a no-brainer for me. I'm not comparing them. I'm just pointing out facts. I knew that someone in the comments was going to say that's why I tried to add the caveat of I know stats aren't everything. You can't look at Neto and Johnson.
Facts. We know Alex likes facts, so give him the facts.
Of course. But we've all seen Neto play. We've all seen Johnson play. They haven't got the same kind of profile. They just play in the same position, right? But we all know these days that a lot of players are system players, right? And Johnson seems to be the kind of player that Ange wants for his system. I'm sure that Neto could do the same, if not a better job in the Ange system. But the argument is about whether you want to take the minutes to games ratio, whether you want to take that risk. I've seen a lot of times, I think it was against Arsenal, you know, Neto went through basically that whole back line, and then before he could take the shot, he went down with an injury, right? And that's just the kind of thing that you know, if you're going to go and spend, you know, upwards of 40, 60 million, you can't really go in and take that risk, because what's the sell-on value if he ends up getting more and more injuries and becomes effectively a Sessegnon type player, right?
Look, and that's the thing, you know, we've had players that have carried a lot of injuries here down the years. Sessegnon, for me, when I look at Neto, he'd probably be a bit like Darren Anderton in a way. You know, if people remember him, possesses immense quality, can change games, you know, can cut the opposition defense open. But how many times a season are you going to get that? You know, how regularly are you going to get that? Don't get me wrong. I think instantly if he comes in, he's better than Brennan Johnson. He's better than Werner. To a degree, some would probably argue better than Kulusevski. Automatically comes in as one of our better wingers, as per se. However, again, just with the injury record, I'm not quite so sure. And with Tottenham's medical team, I don't think it's a match made in heaven, to be brutally honest. You might never see the guy again if he arrives at Tottenham. However, this is the quality of the market that we should be shopping in. Players that do possess that game-changing ability, that devastating sort of blow in the final third. I do like the areas that we're looking in, but again, I would say if Spurs wanted to get this one done, we could have got it done last January, or we could have got it done last summer. And I would hazard a guess, maybe this is one that Tottenham have already made their decision on with his injuries. Not going to happen, and that's why you're seeing the likes of Doué, Eze, and people like that come to the fore on the transfer list. We'll take a few more comments and then we will kick on. We've got Paul Connor says, member for 11 months. Really appreciate that, brother. The length of it. He says, I just want to see some quality signings come in. At least 2 quality signings in that forward line. I like the Gray signing so far, as he actually played in the championship consistently well. Come on, you Spurs. And then he also follows up saying, Dave, don't want to pay big money for a player that gets injured half a season. We cannot take that risk with the high tempo Ange players. And look, Paul, that's one thing we don't have to worry about. We know Daniel Levy will not sanction big money on a guy with injuries. You know, you're probably talking about 25 million and 10 million in that in terms of clauses if he makes so many appearances, plays so many minutes, stuff like that. This is one we're definitely not going to pay big money for. So I don't think we have to have a problem with that, Paul. But I do get your point. But I'm with you. All I want is to see two quality signings brought into that forward line. You know, last year we said sell Harry Kane. We brought in average players and it didn't work, you know. And now one thing we know is we need quality. We finished 5th last year. Imagine if we brought in quality last summer, the difference it would have made. We can't double down and make the same mistake again this window. We have to bring in quality, you know, players that can unlock the door in the final third. It's one of the hardest things to do in football, along with putting the ball in the back of the net. And for some reason, fans overestimate, you know, maybe how hard it can be. And for me, that's why we need to double down and get 2 quality signings in. I think Eze for one for sure. And like Sam says, Ivan Toney will be the 2 I'd be going and getting. Both English, both sort out, you know, sort of the English side of the squad registration and stuff like that. But they're going to command big fees. Are Tottenham going to pay them? But they're the sort of players I would be outlining them big fees. Archie Gray, I think, is a good signing in isolation. But when you look at the problems in the areas that fans want to address, that's why there's a lot of negativity or maybe people questioning signing, because them other issues haven't been addressed. And I understand it. However, Archie Gray was the one that came up and we took the opportunity. So I can understand why he's been brought in before an Eze and a Tony, people like that who are at international competitions. Just quickly, Sam, we'll get your quick opinions on the Archie Gray signing.
I've got a few things about it, you know. So again, I don't watch a lot of Championship, but I've got kind of 2 points on it. Everyone wants a ready-made player, right? But you can't just go and get these ready-made players without paying a premium. And I know 40 million is a lot for an 18-year-old. In fact, it's the most of money spent on an 18-year-old by a Premier League club in history, right? Then factor in the 10 million for Rodon, makes it more 30. If Leeds weren't in financial problems, then it probably would have been put together, right? It would have just been a 30 million or whatever plus Rodon. Maybe even we could have got that down. But I look at signings like Adam Wharton for Crystal Palace, right? There was a period I believe we were looking at him, and some Spurs fans were disappointed we didn't get him. I'm sure there were others that weren't. I'm looking at Mr. Box Office in the group in the chat. But you know, Palace took the risk on him. I think he was like 18 to 20 million or something like that, which is also still a lot. You know, I'm not saying it's not a lot. Obviously, it's less than what we paid for Gray, but he's been given time, and he's now got an England call up. Whether you think that was the right call or not, he's in the England squad. You know, he's had a meteoric rise. Then I also look at stuff like what's happening with all these other teams in the Premier League that are trying to bypass FFP and PSR. Teams like Newcastle, teams like Chelsea, Aston Villa. I mean, Elliot Anderson has gone for 35 million. Like, what? I know he's played Premier League games, but you know, I'd be more willing to take a punt on Archie Gray for 40 million than Elliot Anderson for 35. I can tell you that for free, you know? So that's just the market we're in right now. You can't go and get these, you know, gems from the Championship, especially as a team that is perceived to have a lot of money and not being in problems with the FFP and PSR. They're going to command premiums from us. So you can't really complain about it. I mean, you can, but like, there's nothing we can really do. And the fact that he can play a number of positions, so he's offering rotation for Pedro Porro if he gets injured. I'm hearing that he can play 6. I'm hearing he can play 8. You know, these are all options that if we need him to, he can come in and hopefully can do a job. So I'm positive about the signing. I understand why people aren't. It's a lot of money. for a player who's probably not ready and probably won't be ready this season. But if he comes in and does a decent job this season, then I'm happy, right? And then obviously I want to see him succeed. So if he can, then I'll be over the moon, right? So I'm positive about that, I think.
No, fair analysis. Absolute fair analysis. Look, I think, he's one of England's hottest prospects coming through. I think we've got, one of the hottest prospects coming through on our hands there in terms of Archie Gray. He's had a really good campaign for Leeds last season. And I've always said the mark of a good player is someone that can play in multiple positions or play out of position, but still do it to an adequate standard if asked to. And that's what Archie Gray done last year. It's not easy as an 18-year-old kid in a Leeds lineup being asked to move position, especially across that back line, but the fact that they trust him to do it probably says an awful lot about the guy. And look, I get it, it doesn't solve problems, but he does create a bit of competition for the squad, and hopefully we do more business, and that will maybe satisfy and sort of appease the most fans as we go along through this transfer window. MG Marcus says, hi Dave and Sam, I agree with you. Dave Moore should be part of the first team and given play time. Why do our fans not believe in young players? Honestly, I don't understand why. I don't get it personally. I mean, my whole lifetime, and one thing I've noticed that Tottenham have always done well: Luka Modric, Aaron Lennon, Gareth Bale, Kyle Walker, Jan Vertonghen, Christian Eriksen, people like that. We've identified them young, we've brought them in here, we've given the opportunity, and look what they've gone on. Some of our favourite players that I've named out there as Tottenham fans, if you're from my era and stuff like that. So personally, I don't understand it. There's no excuse for it. Look at Arsenal. Look at Man City, for instance, going for Premier League titles. They can give youngsters opportunities and that, so why can't we? Big up, Eddie, as well. Happy belated birthday, my man. Hopefully you've had a great time. We've just got a couple more rumours to get through. Sam, I know you're in work. If you need to go, my man, that's fine. If you're able to stay, that's fine.
No, that's all right.
Oh, happy days.
Can I just comment? Can I just make a comment on the last, on was it Marcus' comment about, I think the problem is, in the past, when we go into these cups, we make wholesale changes. We drop everyone, right? But you can't expect someone like Dane Scarlett, for example, to lead the line when the players around him have also had a combined 10 games in the Premier League, or they've played a bit part here and there. You need to have players with quality in and around them that allows them to actually get the best out of their ability, because you're saying that people say about the youth, they can't there was a comment about Dorrington, he looks good against people his age, he can't do it against the big boys. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then why would you play a team of Dorringtons effectively against a team that wants to go all out, even if it's a lower team in one of the lower leagues? You can't expect these players to, really take the game by the scruff of the neck with no experience around them. So I don't want to see another Fulham game where, he makes 9 changes. And look, whether he had to do that or not, that's fine. I'm not against him. I'm not saying that, get him out because of that. I'm just saying that was a lesson that he's now learned. It's a lesson we've expected Tottenham managers over the years to learn, but no one ever seems to learn it. So I don't want to see 9 changes. I'd be okay with 4, maybe 5 changes at a push, but you can't expect these players to go out and take their chances if every player in the team is trying to take their chances. You need some experience and people who are comfortable in that environment to help them push on and become the players that we hope they can become, rather than being Edwards or Madueke and feeling like they've got to go somewhere else to actually start to make a name for themselves, right? So that's my feeling on that.
No, that's the thing, and this is the thing. If you want to avoid that, and there's more, Dennis Cirque and people like that who've all left this football club and gone and searched for first-team football elsewhere, you have to provide them the opportunity. Our problems in cups in years gone by, you're playing players who have accepted being back up at Tottenham Hotspur, and you're blocking up, you're giving any of the youngsters a real opportunity. Like, the only time we've really given opportunity to a real youngster in terms of a game like that is when we went out and played Pacos de Ferreira and played a few. But when you play a stale backline who none of them are good on the ball, Doherty, Dyer, Sanchez, or Ben Davies, it's hard for them forward players to really, showcase what they can do. When you got players that can't pass the ball out from the back, I agree with you. I remember watching Spurs in the UEFA Cup. One thing we did do, and this is where I slightly disagree, but I agree with the point you're making. We did make a lot of changes. We made nearly 11 changes for some of the early rounds of that UEFA Cup. But what we did have is someone like a William Gallas, good, solid professional you could put in at centre-back, another player in the midfield, 2 or 3 solid professionals who you knew when you put out there what you were going to get. And we could give the likes of, other players, their opportunities in them games. And it was always enough. Like, I remember Tottenham, we played a lot of our youngsters. We went up and beat Hearts 3 or 4-0 at their place and stuff like that. It can be done. It's just about getting rid of the shitheads who don't care about being at Tottenham, who don't want to win. And that's been the biggest mistake. And one thing, if you look at Ange Postecoglou, he's learned from that. Most of them players that played that Fulham game have gone out of the club. Perisic, Dyer, Sanchez, people like that. A lot of them. Højbjerg on his way out. Skip on his way out. A lot of these players are already on the way out of the club. So he came in. He gave them guys the opportunity. He sniffed the rat. He put them on display. Okay, you failed me. Out you go. And that's the way it should be. And hopefully now we give some of these youngsters the opportunity next season. I'm not sitting here saying give a whole 11, put a whole 11 out there. But, with the likes of Archie Gray, who has a little bit of experience in the Championship and people like that, you can put some of them out there with them. And then, if you've got an Eze, that means one of the players in the forward line will be surplus to requirements. You can play them with that and stuff like that. You can mix and match. But the important thing is to have a squad pulling in the one direction. Everyone that wants to be here. And actually, important, everyone wants to win games of football. And that's what I can't say about a lot of the Tottenham players in years gone by. So absolutely spot on there. Big up. We are Tottenham TV, I presume. The fact that it says lad makes me think it's Sim. But I know Benji likes to tune in here, so I'm not sure who it is, but big up to We Are Tottenham TV, boys. Hopefully you guys are keeping well, lads. Great to see you tuning in. Maisie's Adventure, what happened to Shawnee? Look, I think he put up a post on these the community section of his channel if people want to go and check what's happened to Shawnee. I haven't had a contact with him now in a few days, and I've tried messaging him. I haven't heard that back, but he did put an update in the community section of his channel if anyone wants to hear, see what's going on there. And then we also have Magic, at least Neto as an actual winger. We can stop twerking for Eze. He's a 10, just not what we need. Look, I would argue Eze can play anywhere across the forward line, maybe not up front. I think for Palace last year, he played on the wing for a lot, especially under Ollie Glasner, so he can play there and he can be effective. In fact, didn't he play there against us? When we were at home, he played off the wing, didn't he? And yeah, I was right. Sim, big up, Sim. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. You got your bags packed for Japan and Korea. Please let me know, lad. But that's everyone's thoughts on this guy. So we're going to keep it moving. We've got about 3 more rumors to get through, and then we're going to call it a day. And hopefully you guys follow me over on Tifo for the 2 games for the Euros. Now, the next one is clubs queue up for Jamie Donley. It's not supposed to be the next one, this is, but we'll just go with it. Tottenham are not believed to be willing to sell Jamie Donley. However, Alistair Gold Football London understands that Luton Town, Oxford United and Bristol City are all very keen on taking him on loan. Sam, what do you think we do with Jamie Donley? Because one thing I think everyone can agree with, whether they think he's ready for a first-team opportunity at Tottenham or not, is he's insanely talented. You look at a lot of the goals, assists he scored last year. A couple of his goals. The one against Liverpool was almost David Beckham-esque. The one against Man United towards the end of the campaign, Eric Cantona-esque. Some of the assists at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last year. Kevin De Bruyne. If Kevin De Bruyne was doing that at the Tottenham Stadium, people would be taking their pants off and having a good time. And Jamie Donley's done that at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He's looked electric. He's insanely talented. He can play in a number of positions up front or as a cam. But what do we do with him? We've got Luca Bergvall. We've got Alfie Devine coming back from loan. Archie Gray, contending for one of them midfield spots. You still got Papa Matsar there. What do you think that it is more than likely Donley will go out on loan over the course of next season? For me, I would like to see him given the preseason, given that opportunity. And if he can come in and produce magic numbers, then he deserves, his first team opportunity next season for sure and to be kept around. And I'd argue with us challenging all 4 fronts, I think there'll be plenty of games. If he bided his time, he will get a couple of games across Europe. And that's what Arsenal done with the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, people like that, blooded them through the UEFA Cup, through the Europa League. And maybe that's something we could look to do with some of these guys. But a lot of clubs queuing up, so probably shows the talent that he's got all at championship level. Do you see Jamie Donley going out on loan?
I think that time will tell based on what we end up bringing in the transfer window, right? So if we do end up bringing in an Eze player, right, then that limits his game time.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. We'll see what happens on pre-season. I think that Luton would be a good one. I like Rob Edwards. Is that his name? The manager. I like how he had Luton playing. I think they were unlucky last season. They actually, a lot of the games they lost, they ended up conceding goals late on, or they considered late equalizers. So they if they just had a little bit more quality, I think they would have been safe. I personally, I think I would. I'd keep him for the first 6 months, see if he gets any game time. We want that rotation in some of the cups, so those are the kind of games where you want to give him a run, give him a few, more than 5 minutes, give him like 10, 20 minutes here and there off the bench, see what he can do. And then if they're thinking it's not quite working yet for him in the Prem, in January, I expect him to go on loan. He needs the game time, right? There's clearly interest in him. I doubt that will diminish by the time it gets to January. So we can actually, in the meantime, we can be talking to these clubs, deciding kind of what kind of roles they would have for him, whether he's going to play regularly, and then we can actually make an informed decision about what club to send him to, rather than doing what we did with Alejo Veliz and so many other players and sending them to clubs where they get 5 minutes. Like, didn't he literally play 5 minutes of football? Or he played 5 games or something for Sevilla, and it was the same with Scarlett, I believe, when he went to was it Portsmouth? He was on loan that last season. He started a few games and then it wasn't really working out. Didn't they sack their manager? And then it was kind of like the guy who came in didn't really give him any minutes, so he had to come back in the end. And what's the point of all that, right? You're just wasting an option and also like his ability. So yeah, go on.
No, I completely agree with you, and that's probably one thing why I'm a bit protective over these guys is, name me a player we've sent out on loan over the last few years with a big reputation that's come back with it enhanced. We haven't. The problem is, these clubs that are taking these talented youngsters on loan, they can't afford, a 25, 26-year-old or someone better in that position. So they're looking at Tottenham taking him in on loan. And if it doesn't work, come January, what I see a lot with Tottenham players that are going out on loan, come January, when they can go in the market and sign someone else, these guys are put to the back burner. And it's absolutely no good. For me, I think you lose the talent, if you send him out on loan. I think he's good enough to be able to be brought up to the first team. Ange had him training with them last year along with Dorrington and said that when they play with them, the level doesn't drop. So if the level doesn't drop, that clearly shows that they can play at that level. They're not hindering the first team. So I don't know what's going to go on with this guy. I probably agree with you. Keep him around here till January, see what the game time is like, see what impact he's made. And if it hasn't, then look to loan him out. But if we do loan him out, it has to be a loan move, like you said, where they've sussed out what's your intentions for Donley, what role do you want him to play in, stuff like that. How are you going to nurture the talent that we're giving you? That's what I want to see. You're absolutely spot on there, Sam. Very well said, my man. We've got Gustav S. Fedin says, will Bergvall take a spot in the team this year? Look, that's part of the reason why he signed for Tottenham Hotspur. He was promised, game time this season. He was promised to be in and around the first team. So, one would guess, yes, he probably will be in the first team this season, my man. Chang, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Member for 3 months. Thank you for your off-season content, Mr. Harris. Do you know what, Chang? Really appreciate it. My well is gone dry, to be honest. We're waiting for transfer news. We're waiting for stuff to talk about. Finally, some stuff has been delivered this week. Very slowly, may I add, but we're getting there. The market is starting to heat up a little. And then we've also got MV Joker Davies, member for 3 months. Big up, my man. Says, give me a striker and I'll be content. I think a striker will solve so many problems and will help us win a trophy or trophies. 100%. When we had Harry Kane, we should have had the back line we've got in place now behind them. We probably would have got over the line and won something with him and Son and the goals they were scoring. At Tottenham, we've done it the complete opposite. When we had a defensive manager, we had one of the world's worst defenses, one of the best attack lines. And now we've got an attacking manager. We've got one of the world's best defense and one of the world's shittest attack lines. That's just Tottenham Hotspur for you, MV Joker. I can't put it any better than that, my man. But it's clear, looking at Tottenham going forward last season, we need a striker and we need a couple of wingers. So hopefully we can get that done. Big up, MV Joker Davies. Really appreciate the support. And then else you want to say, sorry, because I know I did cut you off there, Sam. Anything else you want to say on Donley before we move on to Mikey Moore?
I just wanted to say about one of the comments. I think his name was Faden. He was asking about whether Bergvall was going to play. And I watched an interview, or I watched a conversation with Alistair Gold, where he mentioned how he went to Djurgården, or I'm sorry if I butchered that, to watch Bergvall play. And he spoke to their sporting director, I think it was, whose name is like Boss Anderson. And he said, he sort of relayed the information, basically saying that this Anderson guy had said he expects it to take about 6 months for Bergvall to integrate like into the team to a point where he will be playing regularly. So, you know, that's speculation from someone who has obviously watched the guy play week in, week out, and understands the level of talent he is. I'm sure there aren't many people in the chat, or you know, unless you're Swedish, who are watching the Swedish league. So we can only really speculate, and the kid's 18 or something as well. So it's like you can't just call him to come straight into it. I know a lot of people, including myself, seem to be most excited for Bergvall coming in. I think it's because it's been built up for the last few months, and we've seen all these clips of him, you know, tearing up these Swedish teams. But then you have to caveat that with no disrespect, these are Swedish teams, and quite a lot of them are like second and third division Sweden teams. So we can't expect him to come in and you know, kill it right off the bat. So I'm excited for him. I hope he gets game time. I'm sure he'll get minutes in preseason and in the cups. And if he takes his chance, then great.
And look, one thing I'll add to that, my man, because I think you covered it pretty well, is Bergvall ain't any ordinary 18-year-old. This guy has been, you know, when he was younger, his the academy that he was in, he was taken to tournaments in Barcelona, Madrid, playing these teams off the park, you know, standing out. This guy has been offered trials all across Europe as an underage player, you know, and eventually he finds himself at Tottenham Hotspur. It was actually one of his coaches. He comes from the same area and the same academy Kulusevski did. It was that coach that actually got in contact with Djurgården, because Bergvall was doing trials at Bayern Munich, Barcelona, places like that said Djurgården sign him, you know, and then you'll be able to get some transfer fee for this kid. And that's exactly sort of what happened there. So, you know, he's a very talented player, but again, you know, we expect him to come in here and have an immediate impact. I think it's going to be hard. It's a big ask of the kid. You know, you got to give him time to settle. But yeah, he will definitely be playing first team. Shem Tam, member for 2 months. Love this channel. And you and Jack, come on, you Spurs. Really appreciate that. Shem, you must have been delighted with Turkey going through the other day against all odds against Austria. Although your boy, the goal scorer, Mehmet Demiral, has been suspended for 2 games. So where the goal is going to come from, Shem, do let me know. But really appreciate that, brother. Guys, we're going to keep going for about another 10, 15 minutes or so. We've only got 1 or 2 more rumors to run through. Feel free to keep getting your comments in, smashing all the like buttons. You know, get your members chatting, super chats, grab your memberships, do whatever you need to do. Really appreciate the support. So that's it from Jamie Donley. Then we move on, and this is one that concerns me as well. Both Manchester clubs make Mikey Moore offer. Man City and Man United have made offers to Mikey Moore. Moore has agreed his first professional deal with Tottenham Hotspur, but won't sign it until his 17th birthday, so is not locked down just yet, which is where the opportunity arises for these clubs to try and offer Mikey Moore, you know, basically big money, I would argue, to sign with these clubs, considering the talent that he possesses. And he had a great showing for the England under-17s over the course of the summer, which has only enhanced his reputation as well. So he's garnered a lot of interest. It's not only them. Dortmund were long-time admirers when he was on a scholarship contract before he signed the schoolboy forms. They came sniffing along with Real Madrid, and Tottenham done great work to get him to sign on the dotted line and commit his future to Tottenham for the next couple of years until he turns professional. But we are in that situation again, and there's a lot more clubs queuing up on the list right now. So this is maybe scary times. And is this one because we didn't give enough opportunities last season where we might rue to regret it? And this is always going to be the case if you don't provide a pathway for these guys. And this is a name you're going to see in future, in years to come. He's insanely talented. We talk about wanting the player that's direct. This guy is. He usually drags 2 or 3 players towards him, creates space for other people. He's absolutely sensational, very talented. But it looks like we're under pressure to keep him. Sam, would it be a failure on Tottenham Hotspur if we couldn't tie this guy down to his first professional contract at the club?
I think it would. Because like I said earlier about players like Edwards, who, Pochettino maybe fatally made that Messi comment. We have struggled to promote, our youth team players into the academy, from the academy into the team, because, the last player who it was probably Harry Winks, right? Well, I guess Skip. But Skip has not moved, he's not necessarily taken his chance to be our starting midfielder. I know obviously injuries have played a part. Some people call him worse than Harry Winks. People say he's a championship player. Whatever your opinion, he is the last player that we've had that has graduated our academy effectively and gone into our team. So that alone is a failure from us. So if we're going to keep losing our most exciting prospects, then that's definitely a failure. However, I'm not an ITK. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a Tottenham fan who loves the club. I don't think that he will go. I don't see why you would go to United. Yeah, Tanganga as well. You're right. I don't see why he would go to United, because as a club, their training ground is crap. Their stadium's crap. They're in this real big period of change and uncertainty as to which direction they're going to go in, right? They were the club that were the English club. They are the most decorated English club, probably still the biggest, if not one of the biggest clubs in the world. But that's on a commercial and worldwide standpoint, not from a football standpoint. City, obviously, there's going to be a draw there, but we've seen a lot of young players go there, and they haven't necessarily been given their minutes. You said about are we going to rue the fact that we didn't give him loads of chances? The guy's only just turned 16 or 17, right? So he's about to turn 17.
You look at Yamal for Spain, for instance, Barcelona, age isn't a number to them.
Of course. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't get minutes. I'm just saying that obviously he's young, in arguably the best league in the world, plays the same position, if I'm not mistaken, as our captain and best player. I think the fact that they did give him 2 games was them trying to say to him, look, we do want to give you time. We do want to give you games. We want to promote you. So if you can keep progressing how you are, then we'll give you the minutes. But I also think the fact that he had a few injuries last season probably took away from some of his opportunities, especially if he'd had more chances playing in the under 21s. Because I know he was promoted to the under 21s, but I don't think did he make an appearance in the under 21s? I'm not sure.
No.
Exactly. So we've already shown him we're willing to let you bypass the under 21s to come straight into the first team. If he's a Tottenham boy as well, which I believe he is, that's quite big. He turned down an offer apparently from Dortmund, and they're a team that is known for developing young talent, especially English talent, in the last the last 5 years. Exactly, and they've got another, like, is it Bygone Gittins or something?
Gittins or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they've clearly got a bit of a pedigree when it comes to promoting youth and English youth. So I think if he turns that down, I know it's out of England, but I think that he'll be wanting to stay. I think the fact that he is so young means that he can go anywhere he wants if he really does want to leave in a few years, right?
No, 100%, and that's why I don't think time is of the essence for this guy. I don't think he'll knee-jerk. Let's not forget, this guy's a Spurs fan as well, and I think you're right. Tottenham, sort of, but may help them bypass the under-21s and give them a chance in around the senior team, probably with a view of trying to get ahead of this situation to show them that maybe there is going to be game time for him this season. It is being reported and it is being believed that Ange Postecoglou is a huge fan of this kid, that he wants him to be a part of the first team sort of squad this season. And look when Ange spoke to other players, look how quick they've been, jumped to sign on the dotted line for Tottenham. So hopefully we can get Mikey Moore to do the same. But he is a Tottenham fan, and I think that'll probably trump all. And I think it'll probably help him sign on the dotted line again, that professional contract that's on the table for him. And like you said, if it doesn't work out, he possesses immense talent. If he doesn't get the opportunity, he'll still get a move elsewhere. But hopefully the name of the club's coming in, which is Man City, Man United, Dortmund, Real Madrid, people like that who have all been linked with interest to this guy. Hopefully knee-jerks Tottenham into giving this guy an opportunity. And last thing I'll add to that is, this is why, again, I don't want to be jumping in for someone like Doué. Okay, yeah, he's got one season behind him in the French league, but that's because Rennes had the bollocks and the gall to give this guy the opportunity. He didn't go, oh, what if he cost us, all this reactionary shit. We got to start doing the same. Mikey Moore can play anywhere across the front three. Yes, predominantly plays off the left like Doué, but can play through the middle and can play on the right. He's insanely talented, this kid. So again, if you bring in Doué, plus you've brought in Werner, it blocks up this kid's pathway. So, I think they'll be doing wise not to bring in Doué and actually give Mikey Moore this opportunity and actually save yourself 30 million. And that 30 million, like you said, go and put towards the Eze deal, Sam. But that does come the way of the Football Insider. Now, usually I'd say this is a load of codswallop. However, Alistair Gold has also sort of put it in his latest article today, sort of backing it up. So I do think there is legs to this one, guys. And then we've got two quick ones here. Ramsey, of course, on the list. Darmish Shet, the Sky Sports presenter, was on Last Word on Spurs last night, and he said a deal for Jacob Ramsey is not off the table. Tottenham are still interested in him. Again, Sam, this is one that maybe confuses me. I get the talent that he possesses. His career was sort of hindered a little last season because of a couple of injuries and that. But we've already got the likes of James Maddison there. You've got Mikey Moore coming through. If we do go all out for Eze, do you think Ramsey could be the option if we don't bring in Eze? Because I know people are saying, oh, we can go and get someone across Europe. But one thing they're overlooking is Seth Young's gone, Tanganga's gone, Harry Kane's gone, Winks is gone, Dyer's gone, people like that, Spence, all people that are English players that would help with the homegrown. They're all gone. Tottenham have to bring in a couple of them sort of players this year. Do you still think there's legs to this one, or do you think this is one that, Spurs won't do at the end of the day? Because I know we tried to offer Lo Celso plus a bit of cash earlier on in this window to try and, take advantage of Villa's PSR, but they're no longer in that financial situation anymore, so they can realistically charge what they want. So for me, I actually think this one's dead in the water, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Ramsey was quite exciting when he first burst onto the scene. I believe he's had a few injuries and, he's not featured prominently for them. Maybe he will now that they've sold Douglas Luiz, or I don't know if he's gone or not. But obviously, I can see the appeal. He's homegrown. He can play kind of anywhere in front of the defense. Like, he's played some games at striker. He's played left, he's played right, he's played midfield, attacking midfield. So I can see the appeal. My kind of thoughts, and I guess it works both ways for us and Aston Villa, why would you want to directly strengthen your one of your closest rivals in the race for the fourth spot, right? If they want 50 million for him, I'm not doing that, regardless. And I also, although I'd be happy if Lo Celso goes, or I wouldn't be happy, but I'd be willing to let him go. I wouldn't really want him to go to Aston Villa, because that Emery will get a good tune out of him. He's done it before, and if he ends up going there and doing well, then it would be one of those ones where you're just sort of standing there with clenched fists, we had this guy and we've let him go to a Premier League rival. So I prefer to sell him to a Spanish club, if I'm honest.
I'm the same. Look, for me, I want Lo Celso gone out the door completely. I don't see what he brings to Tottenham. He's given yet again another opportunity, and when you've been given a second or third opportunity, it's unforgivable for me to give him another one next season. He has to go. I know we use that as a make weight to try and help our squad registration and get him off the books, but it looks like Lo Celso will have to be sold on elsewhere. And do I think we'll get Jacob Ramsey? I think the only time this probably comes back on the list is if we don't get Eze. But again, we'll wait and see what happens. And then this brings me on to the last bit of the news this evening. And this isn't one that's linked with Tottenham. This is just one that I want to feel out where fans are at with this guy, because this is a guy that came through with a massive reputation. And some would argue maybe he hasn't fulfilled that. He's had a couple of big injuries and that as well. But Fabrizio Romano today, Juventus considered a price tag of 25 million with add-ons included for Federico Chiesa, as current deal expires in June 2025 and is not being extended. So he's 1 year left on his contract. Juve are prepared to sell Chiesa, who's currently not part of Thiago Motta's plans. Now, I have vivid memories of this guy absolutely lighting up Euro 2020. He was in sensational form across that competition. He's found it hard at Juve since then. He spent a period playing right wing back under Allegri, not his position. And he had that really big knee injury that kept him out for well over a year as well. And, that's probably why, there's only a year on his contract. Maybe Juve aren't extending it, but I still think there's an absolute sensational player in there. And for me, this is a guy where fans would look at and go, yeah, great signing. Tottenham mean a bit of business. For me, if you're going to spend 30 million on someone like Doué, 40 million on Archie Gray, 25 million for a guy that's proven international football, I think is a very good player. I really like him. I think it was his father, else it was his uncle. I remember them playing as well, back in the day. But I really like this kid. And for me, if you're not going to get a Neto, this is the guy you go for that sort of fee. I would love to see him in a Tottenham jersey. Sam? Federico Chiesa?
He's definitely an exciting talent, and I think he's the kind of signing that would get a lot of fans on board with the direction that we're going. I think he's got in my from Transfer Market, they're saying he's played 235 games and he's got 47 goals, 43 assists, so 90 GA, and it's roughly 352 minutes per goal. It doesn't sound amazing when you look at it, but that's not terrible numbers for a winger.
But let's
especially
not forget, Sam, that Juve had a lot of problems last year. People make the same case when I bring up Vlahovic. They were shite under Allegri. It had a lot of problems last year. They changed manager and stuff like that. So, is that something that maybe you need to look over?
I think it is. I also think the fact that the Serie A is a very defensive league, right?
True.
And we're coming up against quite a lot of teams that understand the way to play against us is to set up in a low block and not give us space to kind of invert in the middle. I do think that he would have experience to play against that sort of system, where you're getting taken out by players who are bigger than you. I think his versatility as well is quite important. I think I said on a stream with Jack while you were off. I remember, I think it was 2017 or 18 or something. We played Everton in around Christmas Day and we beat them 5-1 or something.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
That front four of Dele, Eriksen, Kane, and Son, the way that they were so fluid and interchanging between them. Obviously, if you swap out Kane for Tony, you've got a player that isn't really changing. You want him just sort of staying, not as a target man, but you want him to sort of link up play from certain positions, not to go out necessarily to the left wing or right wing. But the fluidity of attack is definitely something that I could see Ange being interested in terms of, the fact that he can play left, right, striker, and attacking mid, So if they're only offering 25 million, that's not, I know it's saying add-ons as well, but that's not really, that's not that much money. Obviously it's all a lot of money, but it's not our money. So if they want to go get him, I'd be in for it. I know he's also had his injury problems, which kind of seems to be a bit of a theme for players that we're going for. But like you said off screen, that's kind of a bit of just what football is these days. A lot of players have injury problems. It's just whether is it too much of a risk to get him for a system that is so demanding like Ange's is, Dave? What do you think?
Yeah, look, that's probably the where Spurs have to weigh it up. Ange's system is relentless. You have to be super fit to play it as well. Yeah, you have to do work in and out of possession. There's no real sort of respite or rest period. Ange Postecoglou wants intensity for 90 minutes, and you do take that risk. Can someone like Chiesa's body handle that? Now from what my digging into it was his leg that sort of went. I do think he can handle that. He's got back, played some games and that this season. But again, I think this is something that just comes with every player you sign nowadays, because the amount of games of football there is. You got the postseason friendlies. Now you've got the preseason friendlies and tour, all the international fixtures and stuff like that. And there's no let off with them. Friendlies are a thing of the past when it comes to international fixtures. They're all competitive now. So there's no respite. There's no let up. So any player that you bring in the door is going to have a record with injuries on it, purely because the amount that they're being asked to get out of their bodies. But some obviously have more than others, like Neto, for instance, But I would argue, if you want an alternative to Pedro Neto, who you'd probably get more out of over the course of a whole season, I would go with Chiesa, get him in and around a similar price to probably what you pay for Neto with his injury record and stuff like that. So Chiesa is one that I'd absolutely love at Tottenham Hotspur. And that's where I'm at with that. That's why I brought it up today, because I really like him. I really like this kid. He absolutely lit up Euro 2020. Hasn't really gone his way since, due to, like I said, injuries and being used at right wing back and stuff like that. But I really like this kid. And, I think his injuries are sort of behind him. And I think this is one we should be definitely in the market for if we genuinely want to improve our first team. 25 million plus add-ons, or 30 million for a kid that has 1 year out of the French league. And by the way, we signed in Kudu and Ng, and look what they done when they came to Tottenham. They're also from the French league, by the way. So let's not forget that. So I'm a bit hesitant. People, don't blame me. I'm very hesitant in pulling players from the French league, because we do not do well traditionally pulling from there. Lee Harvey says, who's a member for 5 months, afternoon, Dave and Sam, Chiesa would be a good shout. I fully agree with you, man. I'd absolutely love him. The Owl lad wants him as well. It's 25 million for Chiesa. Bargain. Snap him up. Great player. And my Owl lad, in fairness, he's one guy that has a good eye for a player. When everyone's sitting there hyping up Ndombele and all that, you're sitting there going, he's shite, don't get hyped up, don't fall for it and all that sort of stuff. So, he's got a good eye when it comes to players. Daniel Coy says, Chiesa, what's Chiesa done since Euro 2021, though? Look, like I've already said, Daniel, he spent well over a year. He's done his knee, and just after that, spent well over a year on the sidelines recovering. Then when he got back, he's done all right for Juve, but under Allegri, he's played at right wing back. So it's well and good sitting there going, what has he done? But you got to go and do your research, my man. You got to go and check these things out. Right wing back, of course, his numbers are going to be different, or not look as great when he's playing right wing back and not right wing. That's just an absolute given. But there is a serious player there. And I know Italy weren't any great shapes this Euros at all. But he was their best player going forward. At least he tried to make shit happen to that. And then I also want to take this from Soft. He says if Spurs do sign Doué, they could turn some of the academy players' heads to look at moves away from the club. Same goes for the signings of Bergvall and Gray. Look, I think it's definitely going to start happening if we keep going down this route. Let's wait and see what happens. But my point still stands. We're going to keep splashing out 30 million across Europe from, for guys, because their clubs had the bollocks to give their youngsters an opportunity. Or are we going to start doing it ourselves and use that money to bring in players of significant quality who actually impact the first team? I know what I want. But big up Lee Harvey. Really appreciate the support, my man. A member for 5 months. Absolute legend. But look, guys, I really appreciate everyone that's tuned in today. But time is of the essence. Dave has to go off and do some Euros watch-alongs. I'm ready to go and watch Germany pump Spain. That's who I'm rooting for today. If you want to come in and have a bit of rivalry with me because you're rooting for Spain, get over to TIFO. Everything you need to know is up in the community section right now. Jack's kindly put it up there. Follow the instructions. Get over and join us. Sam, what's it for you today? Sauerkraut, or is that German? Maybe not. Wurst, which is sausage in German, or are you a paella man, which is an omelet in Spanish?
I'm probably a Wurst man, if I'm honest.
Oh, the sausage. Love it. Love it.
Pause. But I'm looking I'm looking at it I'm trying to think, who would I prefer to face if England get to the finals, right? And it's a tough question. I think that I'd probably prefer to face Germany, which could come back to bite me. But I just feel like Spain, they have so many players that are quite like mavericks, They can hurt you, like you said earlier, they can hurt you from all different angles. They put crosses into the box, they run at you. They've got, I know Morata, people think he's shit, or he's been to all these big clubs and they've all decided that like he's not the man for them. But he's got bags of experience. He scored a lot of goals for them. They have a lot of options. I do think that their defense has a lot of experience, but at the same time, it's get at a ball. If we can actually put I say we. I know you're obviously not rooting for us, but
look, I just want to be able to sit down and watch England and actually enjoy a game of football when I'm watching it. That's where my frustration comes in. You've got the best player in Spain, the best player in Germany, the best player in England. You can't even create a chance.
Yeah.
I just want to watch.
Try being English, Dave.
Huh?
Try being English. Try being English, because
my
it is so
mother's
tough.
English, my mother's English. I fully get it. I fully get it how pissed off and disappointing you can get when it comes to sitting there watching the national team. But that's where my frustration comes in. You've one of the best squads I've seen in terms of strength and depth, especially in the forward areas. And Southgate just wants to play complete negative. I don't get it. But anyway, we will be doing a watch along for that game tomorrow on TIFO as well, so come and join us. Just quickly, we'll take this from Soft. We'll let Sam maybe say his goodbyes, and then I'll head over to join Jacko. But Soft says, well, fans like Dave say our academy is producing future stars, but it's not looking that way with all these new 18-year-olds joining ahead of them. Now, this isn't something I've made up, by the way. All you got to do, again, is just do a bit of research. Jamie Donley's made a couple of 4 appearances off the bench last season. Mikey Moore's got 2. They've trained with the first team majority of the season, along with Hall, along with Dorrington, along with Luca Gunter, along with a lot of these other guys. Now, they're not going to train with the first team if Spurs don't think there's players there to have a look at. That's first and foremost. So the claims I'm making are substantiated. Also, when you win the under Premier League Cup at under 17 level, under 18 level, and a lot of them players bring it through the under 21s who were due to get relegated the season before because of how crap they were, and then turn that around to go and win that same league with the same teams in it, that's something to be looked at right there. So again, that's where my claims, I think, are very well substantiated. It's not something I've made up. They're training with the first team and everything else. And again, go and look at the words that Ange Postecoglou has said about some of these guys. The level does not drop when they train with us, which a lot of people like Yusuf would say to me, they're not at that level. Well, if you're just ignoring what Ange Postecoglou is saying then to suit your own narrative. So, again, and also, last thing I'll add is when Paratici came in here, which I also got a lot of blowback off when I said Paratici would be good for Tottenham in terms of the signings that he brings in, but also, for the pathway for the youngsters, which he made great work getting all of them to sign on long-term contracts. Again, Would they get long-term contracts if Spurs didn't believe in the talent? No. And lastly, Spurs are in the market to try and bring the best young talents across Europe and across world football into the academy to help make it produce even better players. So there's where my stance is on it, Soph. I come from all the stuff that's been put out there over the last season, watching all the games and stuff. Where does your point come from? Please let me know. But sorry, Sam, last to you, my man. Give your thoughts. What's your thoughts? Do you think any of these players have come in? And thank you very much for giving up your time. Guys, what do you think of Sam? Do you want to see more of him around there? Let me know.
I agree with you, Dave. I think this is kind of a bit of an ignorant comment because you can't expect that kind of comment is like, basically, are you saying, Soph, that you want every single academy talent to come into the first team? Because that's not how it works, right? You know, look at these academy factories like Chelsea. You know, a part of a good academy is being able to have these players that you can move on for a decent amount, because not every player is going to make it into your team. So if you can offset some of these departures by bringing in players who have high potential, like a Gray and like a Bergvall, like a Sarr, like a Désiré, then you need to do it, right? And you know, I might be wrong, Dave, but I don't watch a huge amount of academy stuff, but I never hear about like any fullbacks coming through.
No, none.
So you know, signing a player like Gray who can play midfield but also doubles as a fullback, I don't see that as blocking the pathway of an academy graduate to get into the team when it doesn't look like we have one. And it's not like you're just gonna say bye to a bunch of players that you've already got in your team, because you've got young players that could potentially be good players. You know, then they're not all gonna make it through, and it's naive to think that they all could.
Of course,
unfortunately.
Of course. No, of course, and that's the thing. They're not all going to make it through, but when you've got a good collective of what you've got there, your homegrown squad is decimated. And, you know, when you go into that market, it's 40, 50, 60 million at a premium for these guys to come in and fill this quota. At some point, you got to give your own an opportunity. And of course, like you said, not everyone's going to make it. You know, there's going to be names that I put out there that won't make it. But if 2 or 3 of them make it, you know, that's absolutely massive for Tottenham Hotspur. Like I said, who doesn't want another Harry Kane, Ledley King, you know, some of people's favourite players at Tottenham, because they've come through the academy. And lastly, you know, you look at some of the youngsters that we're in for, the only difference between them and Tottenham Hotspur is their clubs had the balls to give them an opportunity where Tottenham didn't. And I'd argue, why not better on our own players rather than other players coming in here? But look, that's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to Sam, guys, for making his debut here, stepping in for Jacko today. I think he's done a great job. I've really enjoyed this conversation. So, Sam, thank you very much for your time, my man. We better let you get back to work. I want to say thank you to everybody else out there for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to Kay, Dragging These Nuts, Paul Connor, Cheng, Envy Joker, David Shemtam, and Lee Harvey as well. All the members. Really appreciate your support and your continued support. Guys, please smash the like button. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below on your thoughts on the rumors. Follow me over to T44 to watch along for Spain and Germany. See you all soon. Come on, you Spurs. In the mighty hands we trust. We never stop.